Leaks for Geeks. And it's time for the leaks for the geeks, the news for the dudes.
Okay, some news for you guys today. I got Remedy. You know who they are. Their last big game, you know what it was. Control. Big game. I have not played it, but I did just now get the Xbox One and Game Pass, and I know that's late. I don't care. I bought it cheap. I talked to you about it in the earlier part of the show. But right now, they just announced some pretty big news, in my opinion. Surprise, 2 more Control games are in the works. That's right. You heard me. Two of them. Most anybody that I've talked to that have played the Control game, and like I said, it's on Xbox Game Pass right now. So it's $1. If you want to check it out, it's $1 for 3 months. You can beat that game in 3 months. It's a really good game. Even if it was just that one game for $1. And they've got two new games coming out. People say, how could they have 2 new games? Well, obviously they could have a sequel, right? It's an easy 1 new game. But the second game is the intriguing. Today, Remedy Entertainment and 505 Games announced plans for a multiplayer spinoff of Control, the mind-bending third-person shooter released in 2019. The project, codenamed Condor, is being developed for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, S, and PC. Here comes a quote for you guys. We get that there is going to be skepticism about multiplayer. The Control franchise director said, and she said, but, I said she, it's a he, my bad, but I believe we can create shared experiences without compromising the unique DNA of who we are or the stories we want to tell. Yes, we need to rethink our angles, our techniques, our mindset, but we see it as an exciting challenge. And it says, what would a Remedy multiplayer game look like? That's true, because Remedy, that's not their thing in the past, right? Mm-hmm. Not only is that not their thing, a game like Control, it's almost like taking Alan Wake and making it multiplayer, right? Right. Co-op is one thing, right? But for sure, you can make a co-op Control. You can make a co-op Alan Wake, right? But a multiplayer Control, the Control is one of these games that the people who are really into it are just blown away by the mechanics. They just have done a phenomenal job thinking outside the box. We've done some review talks on it. We haven't got to play it, like I said, but they're one of the big things is it's like some of the big Star Wars games that have come out over the years where people just go, wow, look what they freaking did here, right? That's kind of how people were with Control. They didn't know. It kind of came out of left field. It wasn't, as big. They didn't think it was going to be as big as it is. It's definitely one of those games. So then to see them take that and spin it into a multiplayer, to me, that's very interesting.
Yeah, it is.
I like to see where that goes. And down here at the bottom, it says Control is more than one location, character, or story. So they're basically painting a picture of Control as a, which we already kind of knew this. We've talked about how they've taken over the Alan Wake stuff, right? And that we think we're going to see crossing over of the two and some different stuff like that. So clearly, in my opinion, from the articles we've seen in the past and what they're going with here, Control is setting the grounds for it's almost like comic books are, right? We have like a Marvel universe. It feels very much so that we're going to have a Control universe. So like a place that houses multiple games, multiple characters, multiple storylines that are all going to be playing within one actual, you could call it world per se, but it's more of a universe, right?
Right.
And so I think that's where they're going without saying it. We have more, something ambitious, as today's announcement stated. We have outlined high-level collaboration terms to further expand the Control franchise with a bigger budget Control game. I unfortunately cannot go into more detail than that. but suffice to say, I am extremely excited for the future of the Control franchise. And now, when I read this, it kind of bugged me a little bit because I already got double whammied with the 2 clickbaits today. And I'll mention the third one here in just a second. I mentioned it before. I didn't tell you what it was, but I told you I got clickbaited. And then we read about the Xbox cloud gaming, and it was kind of a clickbait.
Mm-hmm.
This one kind of is too. So I don't know why this gaming news is going this way. Because did you guys hear about a second game?
No.
Right. Because it really didn't say it was a second game. That's why.
Okay.
They talked about this multiplayer game, right? And then they said, we have more, something ambitious. As today's announcement stated, we've outlined blah, 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 blah. That whole quote I just said, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
when they said that, it sounds like they're talking about something else, a more higher budget sequel to Control, right? My impression, unless I'm crazy, when I read this article, is this is kind of like when you get a game that has 2 parts to it, like we've been seeing, like Modern Warfare, right? So you got Modern Warfare, and then you got Warzone. Well, kind of, they were the same, kind of, right?
Yeah.
They're not really. I think that's what they're doing here. They're not saying it's actually 2 games. I think they're giving a hint that we're coming out with Control again, obviously, right? A sequel. It's going to be big. It's going to be good. It's going to be huge with more budget because Control did so well.
Mm-hmm.
And we're making a multiplayer section.
Battle
I think
Royale
that's-
Control.
That would be crazy. That would be crazy. But I think that's kind of what they're saying here without saying it.
It'd be called
I don't think
Control
they're-
Zone.
Yeah. Controllers, wouldn't it be? Because there's a bunch of them. I don't know.
They just call it
Um,
Control Zone.
Controllers.
But what do you guys think? And I did scan back through this to make sure I wasn't missing anything.
Yeah,
I didn't
it-
see anything where they talked about a second game.
It
And
feels
so my
as-
impression is it's really one game.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
feels and sounds like just an extension of the game.
Yeah.
Just
Kind of like when we brought Resident Evil 8 and we know there's a whatever that thing is, the multiplayer monster thing where you fight the
Right.
monster.
Yeah.
Like a,
Yes.
It's not a whole separate game. It's
Yeah.
just a mode. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're wanting to make sure you know it's something big, right? Same thing
Yeah.
like, well, like we said when we heard about Warzone, right?
Yeah.
They're wanting you to know it's really not just an extension. It's still
Mhm.
its own thing, but I don't think it's going to be a separate release. I think it's going to be one purchase, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. It'll come with the game. That's my guess. It doesn't say here.
Mhm.
I am definitely reading into the story in these 2 small quotes.
Yeah.
So
And
like
I talked about earlier with you, Ryan, is when you think about co-op, it makes complete sense. It's like a Portal game or whatever, where you could use your abilities to get through certain obstacles with each other. But to think about just the multiplayer aspect of it.
yeah, multiplayer
yeah.
always implies against.
Yeah.
Right,
Yes. Yeah. And so if you've watched some of the fight scenes in it, they're pretty cool, like throwing things at each other.
Mhm.
So that would be pretty epic. In my mind, it's just crazy to think like, how is it going to work in an environment that is supposed to be able to crumble and you to be able to use those things as weapons and this and that and that,
How are you going to balance that out with other players
Yeah.
and make them not feel overpowered?
or make the game be able to do that.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Just like my mind's blown by the Battlefield being able to crumble too, like we said,
Yeah.
but I don't know how that works. I'm not big brain enough. So
Okay, so there is one little, it's not a quote, but it's from somebody else. And I did read past it because it was between these pictures. Okay, don't want to miss this. Condor, remember, because the multiplayer, it's got its own code name, right?
Mhm.
Condor. And then right underneath here, it talks about, remember, I just read Control franchise with a bigger budget Control game. They're still calling that one Control. You get what I mean?
yeah.
But they did call it a Control game. Now, separately, right up above that in this article, it says Condor has been given a $25 million budget, slightly less than the $30 million that was reportedly spent to develop the original Control, right? But then it says, but it's also just one of the universe expanding projects in the works. So our thoughts on the universe stuff is definitely right. And they're definitely letting you know this is still its own project, right? I mean, we're putting almost as much money into this, just the multiplayer, as we did in the game, the first game.
Yeah.
It's
And
a battle
then right
royale.
after that, it could be. And then right after that, they mention this other bigger budget, right? Well, that one's not a bigger budget. It's $5 million less. So I do think they're definitely, that's why they're calling it 2 games, right?
Yeah.
Because they are making some points to separate the 2. I don't think it'll be 2 actual games. That's my opinion.
Yeah,
but
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, I think Call of Duty did something there with Warzone where it was like, hey, we can release it, base it off one game, and still extend it to another game.
Yep.
Right.
And
Well, yeah, because
so-
I think it is. I think this Condor is going to be a multiplayer game tied to the universe we're talking, not tied to Control. Yes, it's jumping off of Control, because Control is the big one that has everybody's attention, right? But the universe is going to involve multiple things, including the Alan Wake franchise, right?
Yep.
So I
you're
do
saying
think that
Alan can
Control
make a
will be.
comeback.
Yeah. They say he's gonna. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He's coming back somehow in the Control universe.
Okay. This has been a Delirious Dads production. For more information about the show, visit our website at www.deliriousdadsgaming.com. You can also find us on facebook.com/deliriousdadsgaming, twitch.tv, and YouTube. Make sure you like and share our pages to help us grow the channel. You can listen to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and Spotify. Please leave a rating and review if you enjoy the show. Thank you again for listening, and we hope to see you next time.